Okay. Yeah, welcome everybody and those watching later to Strengths Conversations with Jeff and Brent, or Brent and Jeff. I'm Jeff Vannekamp. I'm a certified strength coach here on campus. And as always, I'm here with my good friend, Brent Ollinger. Say hi, Brent.
Hey.
Today, we're going to be talking about the strength of, or the talent of futuristic, and how do we turn this futuristic talent into a superpower. Futuristic is, let me look at it's kind of middle of the road. It's number 20th on the all-time hit list for strengths. So it's kind of right in the middle bunch there. Not the most popular, not the least popular. So a good number of folks at Augustana certainly have it. Brent, what else do you think you could start us off and tell us about futuristic?
Yeah, when I was rereading through everything about futuristic, I thought it was really cool to know that you can preview, maybe even predict or kind of forecast what the future can look like. And for some folks with futuristic, there's a clear vision in their head of what the future can be. And I think that's a really cool skill to have, and that's really helpful, especially for you if you're in your first year, if you kind of have a vision of what your future is going to be, and what your part is in it, that can really be a motivating factor for you in the present, because you're always very aware of what you're working towards. So I thought that was really cool in my reading through futuristic.
Yeah. Michaela, how would you define futuristic, since it's your top one?
I guess I would define futuristic as all of my current goals and motivations, like Brent said, they're all surrounded by the idea of what I want to be when I grow up. And I'm actually undecided as a major right now, which is kind of funny that I'm futuristic, but just being successful really pushes me in everything I do.
Do you think with being undecided, do you think you're trying to figure out I know what the future might look like, what's my piece in it, in a different way than maybe just being this is what I have to do?
Yeah. For example, I've always wanted a really nice house. That's one of my goals growing up. So just obviously want to do something I love, but finding something that makes enough money and that I love is the plan.
Yeah. And what I love about people with futuristic is that it's generally a really positive future, right? It's generally even roadblocks are just small obstacles on your way to something pretty spectacular. I think, how amazing is it that you're undecided, because that's wide open doors in front of you. And hopefully this session could actually give you some really good advice, because as we dig into careers and stuff in a little bit, I think that might be really beneficial to you. I'll just summarize a couple of things just to affirm you and those who have it. You can see details of the future that other people's really can't. Even you're saying, I'm going to see a nice house in my future. And you might even be able to articulate what that house is going to look like at this point, and so I think that's pretty cool. In developing this strength, I'm just going to throw out a couple of suggestions for you, for everybody, I guess. Futuristic lies right in the strategic thinking quadrant. So making sure that you give yourself time to think about the future and put things into plan, right? So spend some time figuring out how to meditate and think, because as your future becomes clearer, then you can develop this vision of how you're going to get from here to there. So, but as with most things in strategic thinking, we have to slow down and give ourselves the opportunity to think about them. It's the same with ideation, intellection, learner input, all of them are time based a little bit. So making sure you're carving aside time for you to think about your future. And a couple of people that I would suggest you try to find to work with is maybe somebody with ideation. If you don't have ideation, or finding other people with ideation, because they're super creative and they can find like maybe a new way of getting somewhere. As you're exploring careers, they might have another career in mind that you haven't even considered that might be really powerful or really something cool for you to be involved in. And then also, sometimes people with futuristic get caught thinking about the future so much that they forget to communicate the future. So partnering with people that have high communication skills, some high woo, some of those skills might be really beneficial as you're talking about how do I develop the skills. You need to become a better communicator so you can articulate what your future looks like. So practicing those and taking classes on communication. And, as you get into your electives in the future, I've already got my communication boxes filled, but I'm going to throw this elective in there because I want to become better at it even more. So, leadership roles, is something that I would recommend getting involved in early, because your ability to create vision and to see the future and to see a vision will be really beneficial for student orgs and clubs. And you need to take the time now in college to practice your leadership skills. So get involved early with those and find a club that you can see that aligns with your future or aligns with making a difference in the world. Something that you can say, God, because of this organization, we're going to make an impact on the future. They need help. They need people that have creative visions, and you're one of them. So get involved with them.
Another couple other pieces of advice that I kind of found really cool, and if you like to write, like it might be effective to like write and specifically write down those details of like what that vision looks like for the future. And that could be
vision boarding.
Vision boarding. You like
put a vision board out there, Michaela, as you have started working on, what your future is going to be like. Put a picture up on a vision board that says, this is what my kitchen counters are going to look like. This is, if your passion right now is the house, well, this is what that's going to look like. And kind of keeping that, because that'll motivate you through some of the challenges that are going to come in your way.
Yeah. And if that's something that, like, if you have a vision board, you have a journal, you have a list of goals, it sounds like you also like to set goals, like having that in a place that, like, either that's, a place where you study or a place you frequently see every day, the back of your door, something like that can really like help you keep you grounded in aspiring to that future that you see. Another thing, and I don't have futuristic, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a suggestion of like getting together with someone who might have futuristic as a strength, like once a month.
Kiana.
How are you?
Good. I'm sorry, I interrupted Brent. I didn't mean
good.
to, but
Kiana, do you have futuristic as a strength?
Yes, I do.
Okay, perfect. Well, you're right on time to discuss more. We were just talking a little bit about like vision boarding, goals, maybe even if you like to write, maybe having some sort of a vision journal and being as detailed as possible as you picture that vision for yourself, whether that's in your career, your personal life, and all the different things that kind of help motivate you about the future. Another thing that I was going to suggest, as you think about mentors and mentors that work really well for you, it might be beneficial to have a mentor that has futuristic as a strength, that can kind of picture that future with you and help you fill in those details, help kind of guide you on your, like, that vision for your future that you're creating for yourself in the present.
Yeah, I would add into that when we're talking about partnering with other strengths and other people. developers and arrangers love putting together projects. And so if you can find somebody, you know, who has developer, they like working with people on helping them get better at something. Arrangers love putting puzzles together. So if you have this like picture of what it's going to look like at the end, but you don't know how to arrange the pieces to get there, arrangers get really, they love talking about that. They love getting into that. So it's people to work with. And then the side that I want to, you know, the shadow side of futuristic, which I think is important to acknowledge, is that sometimes your head's in the clouds and you're always thinking about the future. So working with people and people that have context, positivity, adaptability, those strengths are great because they'll keep you in the moment. They'll ground you a little bit and say, wait, let's not talk about the future so much. You know, my wife is high future and she's always talking about the what if, and that's fantastic. But it's like, wait, we got to solve today's stuff. We got to talk about today. And so finding people to work with, adaptability, context, positivity are really powerful in that.
Not to name another strength, because I feel like we're naming half of them, but even an activator, you know, if you're struggling, you're thinking about the future, but you're struggling to get things started, activators are really ready to, like, they are not necessarily aiming at a goal yet. They're ready to get things going. So if you have that vision or that idea for what that future looks like, they might be ready to be like, all right, let's hit the ground running, either with that project or with that goal that you have for yourself, or they might be there to kind of get you on that first step because they're ready to get going.
So I'm ready to ask a question to Kiana or any of the students that are here, I guess. Can you name any futurists? Like somebody who envisions and thinks about what the future could be. For example, a Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, would be considered a futurist because he created this whole world of things that we could be in the future. And at the moment he created it, it was unseen, which, because he created it, we now have cell phones because he created the first cell phone and he created the first Apple Watch back in the 60s. He didn't know how to do the technology, but he created the vision of what it could look like. So think of another futurist that you may know of. Any guesses, ideas? Maybe who's the guy who does Tesla? What's his name? I forgot. I'm drawing a blank.
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Way to go, Brianna. You know, yeah, and Elon Musk would maybe be a futurist. One of the things that you may want to do is there's some magazines at the library about future. Maybe that would be some of your reading that you could just go and explore, is what are the futurists thinking? Books, people, there are book authors that are writing on, here's what the future should look like, it could look like. And perhaps those are people that might help motivate you. Let's see. Academically, make sure you're pushing yourself a little bit harder because you have bigger goals. Usually your future is a little bit stronger and a little bit more clear. So make sure you're not settling for something. And then work with professors and ask professors what if a lot. And ask professors to help you think about what's the importance of this subject 10 years from now? What's the importance of this subject 15 years from now or 20 years from now? And for you, it's how will studying this subject help me 10 years from now? If they can't draw that connection, then you need to somehow figure out that connection of what's the benefit? Because that helps propel you into studying, preparing for the test, preparing for whatever is, to get a grade, is understanding how this is going to help your future goals. One of the things that I always suggest too to people with futuristic is work on your steps. So the question is, working to make steps smaller. So let's say you're taking a class Bio 110, and you need to see how this test is the first step in your future, and this paper is the next step in your future, and this next quiz is the next step in your future. And you need to put them all into steps because you're progressing towards something more clearly than other people are. So understanding how do you articulate those steps would be a really good project for you. And it'll help motivate you as studying gets hard and you're like, I don't want to, I want to watch Friends, or I want to whatever. I'm sorry, whatever your distraction is, you need to find ways to stay motivated, and making sure you understand that these are all progressive toward that house that you want to buy or that career that you want to have. Relationships. I could talk a little bit about relationships before we just get into careers. The one thing that I'll say for people with futuristic is share your vision with other people. Michaela, sharing that your vision is to have a nice house is important. And if you get a vision board created, or if you write down, like, here's what my future is going to look like, when you share that with other people, it becomes more closer to reality. It's no longer a fantasy vision, and it's motivational. Now I don't want to let down my friends, so I'm going to work harder to make this happen. So make sure you're sharing your vision with other people so that they can help keep you on track. Classes, I think we already talked a little bit about classes. So I'll maybe skip to careers. Michaela, as somebody who's exploring, let's help you line up some interviews with other mentors, like architects, designers, marketing, creative marketers, city planners, other kinds of designers. The Success Center can help you set up interviews with these things, because these are all people that are living in a futuristic world. They're all trying to think of what's the next trend, what's the next connection, what's the next thing. And so they're all trying to live in a futuristic world. And for you to talk to them about what motivates them on a day-to-day basis, and how did they get into their field, and how did they know that being an architect was the thing for them, or how did they know that being a creative marketer was the thing for them. That might help you discern and deliberate a little bit more on what career path you want to go. And then matching that with, where's your well-being balance? It's the goal of the nice house is one goal, but you got to make sure that it's something that matches all of your other passions. I know a lot of people, I'll say my dad is one of those. He worked super duper hard for 40 years of his life, didn't have a home life, but he became wealthy, but he sacrificed all of his balance in order to do that. So make sure you're not falling into that trap. That was a little diversion. Something to write a note to my therapist about. Dear therapist, today I told 3 students about my family life.
I think too, like, as you are exploring those careers, like, I think of architects, because there have been a couple of architects over the past couple of years that have come in to talk to Augie about like what their vision is for the future. So a role like that, like, seems very in line. because you're also like, you're imagining things for people. You're painting that picture. You're creating those things for people as they're in their strategic process of whether that's building things, whether that's even just going through the process of creating a strategic plan for an organization. There might even be like consultant type roles as you help create a vision for different organizations and move into different organizations to help them create their own vision as well. There's a lot of possibilities if you really want to use the futuristic strengths to kind of visualize the future, whether that's consulting, architecture, and all the other examples Jeff gave.
Okay, so we've spoken at you a lot, more than we should have probably. And so now I'm going to turn it back around and ask Kiana, since you were late in, what did we say, Kiana, that kind of struck out to you and you went, oh, this sounded like me, or it sounded like good, or good advice, or whatever? Give me something that you thought was really good.
I thought that the concept of steps is really good because like I can just get overwhelmed about like the things at the end and not focus on like just understanding a concept instead of being like, oh shoot, I have a test on Friday.
Yeah, that's good. And you can even write those down as you're taking your syllabus and putting into your calendar. You know, you could put step 1 is this test and step 2 is preparing for this paper, and et cetera, et cetera. Good. Michaela, what do you think?
I would say a lot of the things you guys were describing sounded like me. Like you guys mentioned that we have to find ways to stay motivated, and sometimes I struggle with that. And also, like with what Kiana said, I get overwhelmed with all the ideas I want to do. So having a vision board or like writing it out step by step would be super beneficial for me.
Yeah, I would encourage you, both of you as well, to look at a network of friends that are going to push you and motivate you and support that. Like I said, the arrangers, the developers, those people that are going to be like, oh, you want me to help you? I will, because developers just want to help you. They want to help you achieve your goals. So finding somebody like that in your network to be like, I'm seeking out a developer. You're in a good spot to do that. Brianna, it's going to be, oh, look, she wrote into us. I would say the ideal of the future is actually as a client. Can I get overworked? Yeah, you know, it's so wonderful that you're at a spot where you can see already that tutors are helpful. I think a lot of first-year students come in and they're like, I don't need a tutor. I was a tutor. And we have so many achievers at Augustana, recognizing that you could use some help and just other upperclassmen that can help you do that is really, really wonderful. It's good. What's your advice when you get overwhelmed and can't see? I don't know if you missed this part, Kiana, and I think you came in right when we were talking about it, but writing it down early, like today, take time to spend time thinking about what your future is going to be, and then putting it into a vision board, journaling about it, somehow getting it down on paper. You can always change it, right? You're not going to be locked into today's vision, but putting it down on paper and then figuring out how you're going to get from here to there. You know, you're all first-year students, so within the next month, they're going to ask you to create your Augie plan, which is your graduation plan. Plan out the classes you're going to take over the next 3 or 4 years, and that's off of today's major. So Michaela, today's major is, I don't know, which is fine. It's going to ask you to kind of create what that plan is going to look like. And letting that kind of be your guidepost for a while. So when you're feeling overwhelmed and you can't see it, you can go back to something that you put down on paper before. And you can go back and say, all right, no, we've already worked on this plan. Let's move forward. going from this place. I would say that's probably my biggest piece of advice for that is get something down in writing and then tell other people about it, because that motivates you to stay on track. And then understanding how, go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, I was also just going to reiterate that. And I would say if you can, I know we're trying to live in a more paperless world, but I would say if you have something physical in person, there is something about having something tangible that you can touch, even if it's a list of goals that you printed out on one sheet. That just makes it more real in your mind, that you're able to see it daily, that you're able to visualize it, or that you're able to even just write down your vision in a notebook. I think having that physical thing is really, really important and helpful.
I
just know I can have 50 million files on my computer, but that doesn't mean I'm looking at them every day. So making that physically present is helpful.
Everybody in my family did a vision board, and it was, we took a board, this size, whatever, 11 by 17 or something like that. And we just started taping and pasting pictures of people that we wanted to meet, plays that we wanted to attend. These are the things we want to accomplish in our lives. And it's been helpful because we've been looking at each other's, and we put them up in a public place, and we look at each other's and we're like, oh, hey, by the way, guess what? This play is happening in Omaha. We're going because it's on your list. Or, you wanted to meet this person. Well, guess what? We're trying to make that happen. Or I wanted to graduate summa cum laude, so I have to work extra hard because that's going to take a little bit more diligence. Whatever it is. So I'm a big proponent of that. I agree with Brent 100%. Visual is helpful. My son is young enough and getting to an age where he needs to wear deodorant. We had to tape on a Post-it note on the mirror of the bathroom that he uses the word deodorant, so he'll remember, because he forgets all the time, and that's not good. So even visual reminders help everybody. So I would put that out there as don't be afraid of doing something visual. And on that, if there are no more questions, yeah. You said a lot in multiple goals, and how do you not get overwhelmed with achieving your goals?
So just in general about goals should be very specific and timely. If it's something that can't happen, like a vision board is different, but if you're setting goals, like that should happen in the next 3 to 6 months, you should be able to accomplish that goal. So I don't know on the level of specificity of what you're going into. If you're saying, I want to have a nice house, that's probably not something that's going to happen this year. So I think it just kind of depends on what your goals are. But I would say too, if you're getting overwhelmed with the amount of goals that you have, pare down your goals and figure out what is your priority. And that's a lot to say. I mean, I know I need to take that advice myself as a young adult, because I do have a lot of goals of what I want for my future as well. But really, what are the things that you need to focus on? What's the thing that, even with goals, like what's the thing that you can accomplish the easiest? Because when you accomplish things, it spurs you to do more. So maybe there's some more low-hanging fruit when it comes to your goals, and try to focus either on them entirely, and you might have the other goals as a backup, or they might be something you just focus on, some months down the road.
I would delineate between those two things as well, Kiana. A vision board and a goal list are two very different things. A vision board is big picture, 10, 15, 20 years from now, here's that goal or that vision. Your goals list, like Brent said, simple, realistic, timely, it's achievable, it's measurable. Did I do it? It's the SMART, an acronym: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely.
So to give an example that you might do, like if you want to maintain a 3.0 GPA for this year as a first year student, that's a goal that's time bound, it's specific, and it's something that you can check off after a certain amount of time.
And then you can break that down into smaller and say, in order to have that, I need to achieve this test and I need to make this test. So my goal related to this test is to study 15 hours this week on this chapter. And that's a measurable, simple, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. So break them down into smaller pieces. And if that's not your strength, that's exactly where you need to rely on other people's strengths. That's exactly where the arranger, the achievers, the developers, that's where those people, friends, can help you, because they're the ones that are going to be like, I love creating to-do lists. Let me jump in and help you create the to-do list. A lot of time futuristic, if you don't have that talent as one of your other 5, you find somebody who does. I mean, that's the whole part of sharing your talents with others, is to create a team of people that are going to propel you forward. You don't have to do it by yourself. I hope that was helpful, because I agree. I think the future sometimes can be overwhelming. All right. Are there any more questions, or shall we wrap it up? Because next week, I'm just going to look real quickly. Next week, we have, it starts with a D. I know, discipline. Next week, we're going to talk about discipline. So for those of you that are futuristic, that are thinking about how do I achieve these goals and not becoming overwhelmed and overcome by these goals and these visions, maybe coming and learning about discipline and how to turn that up in your life, so that you can sit back and say, I need a little bit more focus, a little bit more discipline. Or come and find out who else on campus has discipline, so you can be like, I want to work with you. You need to help keep me under control. And that would be fantastic. So, and that being said, thank you all for coming. I will make sure I have your names down here. I will go in right now and get you credit for being here today. And thank you so much. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.